All right. Peace, peace, peace. I got to stand on. Anyway, peace, everybody. This is Show Improve. Um, I'm Achi Karar. And we is back at it again. Peace to Achi Yadaram. Well, Abba Yadaram. Peace to Alien, aka, Choti Afe, and peace to the Chief, what I'm talking about. And well, we are on a new segment or series because it feels like series with so many parts. Last strong we sort of finished up Code of Hammurabi. And now we are on basically historical concepts when it comes to destruction of Black civilization. Peace, Emma Yakira Eden. I really like this book. You know what I'm talking about. It was basically one of the first books. How can I say this? It's like one of the first books I ever bought. Like I bought. It was like the first book I ever bought, and it was my Baba who told me to get it, right? And he said, you need to get Destruction of Bad Civilization by Chancellor Williams, and I ended up getting the book, right? And it blew my mind. I just say it like that. The book blew my mind, right? And to me, it's like the whole writing style, Chancellor Williams' writing style is just straight bars. That, it just felt like straight bars to me. And it also solidified the importance of history and the importance of being a Black or melanin rich historian and being a warrior scholar at that. After I read it, actually, I was like, ooh, that scholarship right here. That scholarship right here. I said it just like that, you know what I'm talking about? But to me, it's a phenomenal book, just like Rebirth of African civilization, which he also wrote. You know what I'm talking about. And we're going to be bouncing back and forth between books, but as topics go on, but we just going along for the ride with this, you know what I'm talking about, and we gonna keep on going with it. But I'm telling you, man, I mean, like I say, sometimes I can't express in words how wonderful, a one volume work, a condensed volume of work at that. It's just like think of any good album, like just greatest of all time album. That's how I feel about this book. Like, this is the greatest of all time when it comes to a scholarly work, or a scholarly body of work. So let's get into it. All right. And once again, we got slides, know I'm talking about. So we gonna go through them. But peace, Emma Queer. It's true. Hold on. See, Troy is saying this trivia material. Okay. It's trivia material. So look, pay attention. If you need the slides, just get at me or something like that. You know what I'm talking about? I'll give them to you. I don't got a problem. But yeah. Peace, Mayuba. All right. Now, this is the author. It's important to, I sometimes feel like Chancellor Williams, we, if you're old enough, you've only known him as a young, as an older or elder man. Um, okay. Your belly will say that's cheating. But you ain't getting nothing from me. But we know these, like Chancellor Williams and Dr. Ben and man, all of them. We just know them as elders, elder men. We never see them as younger men, or younger scholars and things like that. I thought it was important to see this guy as a younger man. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm talking about? That's important sometimes, because he's been doing, they've been doing it a long time, bro. Long time. You know what I'm talking about? Peace, master, um, um, is on about for reading this shit for sure. I told y'all, hey, that's good, man. I mean, hey, look, we gonna go through it. We gonna go through it. Just, I'm glad it's on the battle plan, man. That's what's up. So yeah, with this, it's like you try not to struggle because you want to give this work justice, So here I am trying to give it justice, you know what I'm talking about. So yeah, see, this is true. I've never seen this picture. Exactly, it's important to see them as young men, man. You know what I'm saying? Like for me, another case in point, seeing at least at the time, seeing like Malcolm X as a younger man. You know what I'm talking about? Because one thing I like, okay, one thing like I used to like, seeing Malcolm X at Chicago, but not Detroit Red, and he's the reason why I like the zoot suits, long coat zoot suits, pinstripes, because I saw him wearing it. And they'll be, we be taking piss in the suits and whatnot, and then I'll try to pose like him, you know what I'm talking about? So yeah, impressionable, right? But yeah. Okay, so a little known about Chancellor Williams, born in 1893 and died in 1992. 2 years shy of making that centennial, that century. And he's from Bennisville, South Carolina, South Clear. His father was a slave. His mother was a cook, but his father was a slave. So he, can actually say he is, like us all, but real, frontline descendant of a slave. You know what I'm talking about? But his family moved to D.C. Part of that Great Migration, another historical point. He graduated from Howard University, which is also in D.C. And he studied at Oxford and London University. So that's part of his matriculation, and got his PhD from American University in 1949. Like I say, he a grown man and got his PhD in 1949. You know what I'm saying? That said something. And he taught at Howard University. He was even a principal at the school. So the guy, hey, to me, he's like the guy got credentials. You know what I'm talking about? So but yeah. And, oh man, and he had a bunch of kids. He had like 14 kids. Man, like, hey, fruitful and multiplying, know what I'm talking about? But yeah. So, okay, let's get into it right now. This is at the start of the book, but I thought it was important, especially what we've been learning in our new and Wednesday study sessions. You know what I'm saying? So, what became of the black people of Sumer? The traveler asked the old man. For ancient records show that the people of Sumer were black. What happened to them? The old man sighed. They lost their history, so they died. you know. So, message, basically, you know, that says a lot. Uh, in that, sometimes we got to go, through the Hebrew and the Akkadian and Sumerian, and that says what happened, what was going to happen, and sort of what's still happening. You know what I'm talking about? Look, to me, reading this, it shows past, present, future. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. It shows, when you lose your history, you're in a sense you're dead. Not in a maybe not in a physical sense, but in um a spiritual or psychological sense, and a physical sense as well. You know what I'm talking about? But yeah, so we gonna start with the first video. You know what I'm talking about? So let's go. We gonna get it with Dr. John Henry Clark, because he can explain what is history better than I can. You know what I'm talking about? So let's go.
History is a clock that people use to tell their political and cultural time of day. It is also a compass that people use to find themselves on the map of human geography. History tells of people where they have been and what they have been, where they are and what they are. Most important, history tells a people where they still must go, what they still must be. The relationship of history to the people is the same as the relationship of a mother to her child.
Okay. Oh, just a heads up. Me, me too. You know what I'm saying? I love that because I if you watch his lectures, you hear him even saying in his lectures, selected lectures, depending on which one you listen to, you catch it, but to hear it in documented form was just, like I say, these dudes spitting bars, man. Like that was a bar. You know what I'm talking about? But that's that. I had to start it off with that. You know what I'm talking about? Man, I'm gonna tell you, for this series, we're gonna be going through a lot of videos because there's just so much material. But also, links for these videos are in the description. You may get them more than once just in case, because they're long and I have to cut, edit. But yeah, he just told you what history was. But also, not only did he tell you what it is, he told you from a melanin rich perspective, in a sense, or he broke it down from a melanin rich perspective. Because you actually, define history, it just tells you, series of factual events and things like that. I can do the Eurocentric, definition, but F all that. I just gotta say, F all that. I'm gonna let the elder tell you. You know what I'm saying? I just had to say it like that. Apologies. But that's what they say. They give you the drawl of series of dates and things like that. But no, it's more to it than that. It's not that gray. It's deeper. And because Dr. John can break it down and really tell you, it's like a clock. It tells you what where you've been, where you are, and where you must go. You know what I'm talking about? You know what I'm saying? It's still, significant in the lives of one person, the lives of a family, and the lives of a blood lineage, the lives of a nation, the lives of a tribe. We can keep on going with this. You know what I'm talking about? But yes, it is all those things. Sometimes it just takes, somebody to explain it, because in your own cultural perspective, because when people, view history, at least when melanin rich people view history, that's how they see it. They see it from a sort of Eurocentral view, and because of certain issues, i.e., slavery, we're just gonna say it, they don't like to view it, or because their own personal familiar histories, they don't like to. I ain't about to remember all those dates. Well, it's not really about dates. I mean, yeah, you can remember them; they're important, but it's more to it than that. It's more deeper than that. Anybody can remember dates, but it's more to it than that. So uh, that's why we had to use that. You know what I'm talking about? So the everlasting quest for knowledge. One thing, at least in my experience or journey, I'm talking about, at least when it comes to history and scholarly things, which is just, basically the seeking the truth. Um, you're always on the quest for knowledge. It's like a big, it's like a fairy tale in the sense where you're always on the quest. You're always on the quest for knowledge, to know something. You know what I'm saying, and find out something. And once you find that thing out, you're sort of more powerful than you were before. You know what I'm saying? And it's an ongoing thing. It never stops. You're always on the quest. If you're on that scholarly path, you know what I'm talking about. You're always on the quest for knowledge. You can go into wisdom, but you're always on the quest for knowledge and wisdom. But you're always on the quest for knowledge. You're always on the quest for the truth of things. You know what I'm talking about? And so it's always the important to sometimes see these things as the everlasting quest for knowledge. You know what I'm talking about? Okay. Um, a second. Let me do this right quick just in case. Because, like I say, when it's on, when the slides are here, you can, it's emboldened. I embode everything, but it just looks fine. I just don't know why, but it is what it is. So I knew even before leaving high school, that one, the land of the blacks was not only the cradle of civilization itself, but that the blacks were once leading people on earth. That Egypt was not only all black, but the very name Egypt was derived from the blacks, and that the blacks were the pioneers of sciences, medicines, architecture, writing, and were the first builders in stone, etc. Um, as soon as one learns things, it opens up a new quest. Oh yeah, oh yeah. The reason why I put this is because for some of us, at least those that's on that memorable path of memory and things like that, one pattern is certain, is that we know something and you can't change our minds about it. That's why this patch stuck out to me. And the reason why is because, when I first started as a kid and things like that, you cannot tell me that Tutankhamun wasn't black. He wasn't a black kid. Because that really got me sort of started in a historical mood. I was, in school, in elementary school, and we had a little small library, and I would always pick up this book called The Curse of King Tut's Tomb. If memory serves me correct, I don't remember if it was a real nonfiction book. I think it was just a mystery, but they had pictures of him and Carnarvon and things like that. And when I looked at him, I looked at his mask and things like that. I was like, you couldn't tell me that he wasn't black. He wasn't a black kid, like I said, because he was, young when he died. And that was something I knew before I actually verified it. You cannot tell me. you can convince me otherwise. And sometimes that's how the search begins. You want to know something, or you're so convinced by something, that it brings you on to a wider search to verify what you already know. You know, you know what I'm talking about. So this right here um, says it all, and that's sort of an inspiration for those younger, that you may know something, and can't nobody tell you otherwise, man, because you know it, and then you're right about it. You know. Also, when it comes to any science, at least what I was told, sometimes we, uh, you know, uh, my Bobby used to say, sometimes the science is sometimes not in search of being proven right, but to be proved wrong. In a sense where you're trying to get proved wrong, but right, in the sense where you may have an experiment, and you're trying to look for this, and maybe you're wrong about it, but you want to be proved wrong sometimes, and also prove right about some things. But sometimes, if it's a worst case scenario, you want to be proved wrong. But I hope I am, hope I'm wrong about this. Sometimes you see in the movie when you got these astronomical, research, and aliens come down, you be like, man, I hope I'm proved wrong about this. I'm right. you know but yeah, sometimes it be like that, or then you have a conviction, and people want to say you're wrong, but then you be like, okay, but then prove me wrong, because it never going to stop you from learning or seeking the truth or research. It's just going, okay, back to the drawing board. I got proved wrong back then. You fall, you get back up. Same thing, man. Same thing. Okay, I put this in here from the new way. The first component of our economy is our students. Education is the key to wealth. Our first investment should be in our minds to establish a sustainable economy, and we must have portable skills. So the first investment should be in your mind, and with history and things, books like this, and learning with any tradable skill, any science. It's an investment in your mind. That's one thing you gotta look at it as. Like Chief would say, you know, college or university is a business. So you treat it as such, you know what I'm talking about? And if you treat it like an investment of your mind to get a sustainable economy, um, and a skill, you can't. So you can't go wrong, Mike. You know what I'm talking about? So yeah. Okay. Let's go with the next one. 1 second.
I was born on Sharecropper Farm in Union Springs, Alabama, New Year's Day, 1915. That was a great feast day in our family. And because my mother was a favorite in the family, and I was late arriving, she said that nothing would be killed in this family until my child is born. And I didn't arrive until 3, and everybody was hungry. The feast had not started, and I wasn't exactly welcome. They never quite forgave me for that, holding up the feast. My early schooling was in a one-room schoolhouse that we called Miller's Hill School. When we moved slightly out of the city, I was chosen to go to city school. Officially, I never finished high school in the formal sense until later years. In fact, I taught 2 generations before I took time out to get my BA, my master's, and my PhD. And I have it all now, but I'm principally self-trained. My university was the public library and well-chosen secondhand bookstores. So while I grew up poor, I grew up in a very rich environment, culturally rich. I grew up with a whole lot of love and affection, a lot of lap time, and a lot of slap time too, because I wasn't permitted to get away with too much. Miss Evelina Taylor is my 5th grade teacher, and she might be the foundation teacher in my life. In addition to teaching me basic good thinking and good conduct, she called me into her room during her lunch hour one day and told me to stop playing the fool because I was playing the fool just to get accepted. And she said, it is better to be right and march into hell than to follow a bunch of fools into heaven. I wanted to do something to impress Miss Taylor, and we had current events on Friday. We wanted to say something unusual because I worked for white people before and after school, and they had magazines. They would receive them one day, read them hurriedly up, throw them away the next day. So when I got up for current events, I always had something decidedly different to say about my own people and about other people. No, I wanted to do something real big. So I went to a lawyer that I worked for before and after school. I can still remember his name, Gag Steiner, and I asked him for a book about my people in early world history. He says, I'm sorry, John, that you came from a people who have no history. My mind would not accept that. I continued to search, and I opened a book called The New Negro, and I opened to an essay called The Negro Digs Up His Past. And for the first time, I knew that I came from a very old people, that we were older than slavery, older than oppression, older than Europe. Now the scramble began for more information.
Okay. So that sort of coincides with the previous slides, but you know, everybody got a story, man. And I feel like this was important because everybody does have a history. And as you see, Dr. John was basically telling the history of his birth and the history of his childhood and how he got put on the path. How he got put on the path. He wanted to know about his own cultural history, and Euro told him, you don't have one. That was sort of the norm. You don't have nothing past slavery. Even now, it's like, yeah, y'all did something back then, but we don't know. still nothing past slavery. History has inspired great books, fictional books, um, like, for other people. But when it comes to you, and you have a very interesting story past slavery, way past slavery, that you can put in the books or you can put into futuristic tense, man. I mean, like you say, man, that's what makes Afropunk so interesting, so significant, because you do have so much story, so much untapped stories at that. Even even those back home ain't even tapping into those stories. You know what I'm talking about? That you just put into words that just take off, man. You know what I'm talking about? But when it comes to just wanting to know, you know what I'm saying, and search and seek and scratch and dig for more information. Look, I'm doing that Mentat thing, getting more data. You know what I'm saying? It's it's a very interesting path, you know what I'm talking about. And it'll take you places that you wouldn't have expected. But it also expands your mind, you know what I'm talking about, and expands your thinking, and past the present, or just thinking about today. It takes you beyond um, the past and even beyond the future. I mean, people look at, look, I can go on about it. Um, People, dig for information just to um, predict the future, in a sense, or where people is going in the future. There's always a study out saying you're going here, you're going there, you know, but you also have to question, well, who told you that? Who wrote that? Who said that? You know what I'm saying? Are you the author of that? Or is that somebody else? You know what I'm talking about? So yeah. Um okay. In other words, there can be no real identity with our heritage until we know what our heritage really is. It is all hidden in our history, but we are ignorant of that history. We have been floating along, basking blissfully in the sunny heritage of other peoples, which, like I said, I gotta do a Jolty Maria. This is true. This is true. You know, we bask in the cultural heritage of other people, especially people that don't like us. I mean, hey, we gotta keep it a buck. I mean, we look. You got black people celebrating St. Patrick's Day, like, and Columbus, you know, or they're so enthralled with content or intellectual properties from other cultures. I can give you a prime example. Anime. You know what I'm talking about? I do like it, but I don't delve into the culture where I bask in the blissfulness, like it's so cool. And I'm like, no, it also has its own problems. And you also can tell a cultural norm or perspective from that, in a sense. You know what I'm talking about. And if you observe, if you have the eye to observe and think beyond that. Think beyond thinking that it's, some things are just a cartoon, a movie, a TV show, and look past that, but everything you need is in your own history. You know, it may be hidden, but that's for you to find out. Like you got to make moves to find out who you are. You got to make moves to find out, what your identity is. You got to make moves to find out, what blood lineage you go to. Like, like Chief said, because you ain't gonna find it on Ancestry.com. You know what I'm saying? You're just not. You know. And also, you you gotta build relationships, man. Sometimes you gotta build relationships, build also, because I was thinking about this as doing this, because sometimes there's just so much you want to say. Sometimes that probably take you to be the historian in your own family and building relationships with your elders and talking with them. You never know what you're gonna find out about them or find out about yourself. Like for instance, like I normally talk with my old ones or whatever. I talked to my grandmama, and she told me something I never knew before, that she played basketball. It's like, you play basketball? And she's like, yeah, I play basketball. That's how I met your grandfather. I was like, I knew that. I knew that part. I just thought you was just that pretty chick that stayed on the sidelines and just saw him playing basketball. Because that's what he said. But she put more context to the story, right? No, I played basketball too. And then I thought about it. I was like, oh, that makes perfect sense. Because, my mother played basketball for college. So so that's what she got it from. And then she told me, yeah, we played basketball and we danced. It's like, huh? that I didn't know. Like, oh, so that's what I get that from. Because I never seen them dance. But she said that's all we did. We played basketball and we danced. you know? Like I say, sometimes you got these people as elders, but not younger people, or see them in as what they once were, young people doing young people stuff. You know what I'm saying? And but also you sort of also see probably some of their historical issues. It may be some rebelliousness, in your family, or head-heartedness, or something, and then you can't pinpoint it because, one, you probably don't know your history, or two, you never talked to anybody, or they never let you know. They don't want to talk about it and things like that. But it's important. You know what I'm talking about? Let's see. It makes you ask things that forces you to rediscover who you are. Yeah, it does. When you have so many people from other cultures still in your history, you have to dig to find the truth. Yes, however, you do have to dig to find the truth. But some people don't want to do that. But yes, it takes that. It takes for you to dig. You know what I'm saying? But that's hey, other people gotta do it too. Sometimes it's just not giving them. You know what I'm talking about? So that's where you get it from. Oh, I don't know about that. I it put it put more context into it, because she said it. Because me personally, I only seen them dance one time, but I thought that was the most like loving moment I ever seen in my life. Like, these two actually, like, that really touched touched me, because I heard them argue. I heard them do a bunch of things. I ain't never seen them dance together, and to finally see them dance together blew my mind. Blew my damn mind. But no, I think I get that from the other side of my family. That dance stuff. that goes from the like Dr. Clark, them Bama people. I don't think that comes from them. I know they do it. That just means it's much stronger. but yeah, those other cousins, I just holding it for us. To rediscover later. That's all. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, man. So Okay, this is gonna be a little. Give me a second. I gotta pull it up because that's a little bit. I'm a little bit blind. Okay. The wisdom is the application of knowledge, um, of finances, or anything else does not make a person wise. To be wise, we must practically apply the knowledge that we have. If we do not, we will be known to be wise. A wise person unceasingly applies their knowledge. We must clothe ourselves with the tools that help us prudently deliberate what is well or unwell for ourselves. If we are not wise to what takes away our life as opposed to what adds to it, we will construct a pattern of life that leads to a human experience of poverty. That's from the New Way in education, you know. So that whole context pretty much, you know, um, goes if you're not wise to apply things, with the knowledge of your history, you're what? You're doomed to repeat it. You know what I'm talking about? You're doomed to repeat it. I think that's one of the main issue. You got a lot of people that quote unquote think they know their history, but they don't have the wisdom to apply what was learned or what to add to it and what to take away. Like the entrepreneurial side or the historical entrepreneurial side of the history, man. Like we owned things, but it's never really talked about. Man, I can't tell you like for some I know a lot of people don't know this. Like Melon rich people actually build cars. Like literally build cars. You know, blew my mind when I first found out. Hold on, we build cars too, like Model Ts and whatnot, but different. Like we really build cars. We just went in the factory. We actually owned a, to build a car, or something like that. Or okay, because I was gonna share this. Like it's sort of for you New Yorkers. Because I know some things. Like when it comes to like one of the coolest clubs in New York, the Cotton Club. The person that first owned the Cotton Club before it was the Cotton Club was Jack Johnson. Nobody says that. He sold it to Oni Madden, but should that should be Cafe Deluxe. Cafe Deluxe. That's what it was originally called because he had two. He had Cafe Deluxe and Cafe the Champion. But that's what, hey, you know what I'm saying? No one talks about it. There's a lot of things. Look, we say we from certain places and we don't know our own history in them places. You know what I'm saying? Central Park, Seneca Village, you know what I'm saying? And things like that. And a slew of things, you know. Um, and that's one thing that got me also into history, riding around Chicago and looking at old buildings and things like that, or walking around Chicago and looking at old buildings and things like that, or going into old buildings and seeing markers like this. These houses been here since the 1890s. That's Gold Coast right there. Or like walking with your mentor. Well, for me, was my dad, and we would go from the low end or anywhere, and he, like I say, he would tell me what this building used to be and what that building used to be. That used to be a banquet hall. That used to be this. That used to be that. You know, um, and then just riding around. That used to be this. That used to be that. Before that was a church. That was a synagogue. you know, things like that, but you can, you know, and another thing that I learned, at least in my experience, what I'm talking about, um, sometimes you have to put yourself in the context of history as well. One thing, one of my teachers used to say, even if you're going through a date or or a historical time, also know what your people is doing at that time. No matter what time it is, know what your people is doing at that time. That also is something you can apply because, like I say, people have like you ain't got nothing past slavery. So, if you go beyond that, you have to know what your people was doing at that time as well, because everybody was doing something at that time. Even you. You know what I'm saying? Even you. You know what I'm saying? Uh Yep, I shared the concuss years ago in a podcast. That sounds was a word. It's called entrepreneur. Yeah, man, you know that the boy from Galveston, he from that Texas. You know what I'm talking about it. He from that Texas. He came up there to Chicago. You know what? And just had a ball at the levee and knocking white boys out with a smile. I mean, just bow. you know and importantly, what's interesting about that, I'm talking about, if you ever seen like the reels, the boxing reels and things like that, I'm talking about, he got to deal with, just white men just, calling him all sorts of names under the book. And all you can do is smile and shake his head and things like that. But in the smile, you just feel like, he's saying, but you won't get in this ring with me. You can say that out of the ring, but if you can say that on the, I'll whoop yo. But yeah, that's that. That's that Texas. That's that Galveston. You know what I'm talking about. So yeah, and he studied. You know what I'm saying. So yeah, man. I mean, went to entrepreneurial. I mean, and then there's history and context. You can study the Mann Act. The Mann Act is still prevalent and still important to this day, especially if you're if you're melanin rich or you're male. You need to understand the history of the Mann Act. You really do. You just really do, because that's what it is, man. You know what I'm saying? You need to study that, man, or know something about it, how it got started. Which got started by Jay Johnson. But you know what I'm saying? But yeah, that's important to know. But yeah, Chief, man. I mean, boy, they don't know. Hey, man, So yeah, and that was another, like, wasn't really a field trip, but we riding around, and son, my dad would be like, this cemetery, all the famous Black people are buried in it, this cemetery, not hospital, but cemetery, which Jazz Johnson is buried in that cemetery. But I forget the name sometimes, but I know where it's at. But yeah, so okay. Now, from the researcher's point of view, the most important part of the investigation was the beginning task of singling out and clearly setting forth the precise nature of Africa's own independently developed civilization. Sometimes that's the most important part, because those that don't look like you will say, well, yeah, you did that, but you did it with Arabs. You had help. You did it with Arabs. Oh yeah, y'all had them kingdoms, but that was only when Islam came and civilized y'all, something like that. Or when y'all found Jesus, Yeah, y'all had kingdoms, but yeah, you had help. You had outside help. That's the key. You know what I'm saying? Or no, you had outside help. You had outside influencers. You didn't come up with nothing on your own. You had help. you know, but that's the important part sometimes with researching about your own history. You want to uh, have a precise setting and foundation of a developed independent civilization that they can't claim or say you stole or say they helped you build or say this or that or they were there or things like that. That's sometimes that's the hard part. You know what I'm saying? Or sometimes that's the easy part. But it's the easy part, and then you got to sift through all the yeah buts. Okay, yeah, Egypt was black, but you know, or what's another one? Hannibal wasn't black; he was Phoenician. What's that? you know, or what's another one? Or like when they we'll go back to King Tut and everything when they try to computerize their physical face and they make them look so Arab, so light skinned Arab. It's like really, like you don't know African cranial structure. It's like okay, I'll buy that one. Okay, whatever, man. I can tell from that bus they ain't gonna Nefertiti look like they ain't gonna Sharde. You can't, Let's just keep it a bug, okay? Something like that, or whatever. It is what it is, or it could be something totally different. Something like that. You know, but yeah, man. So okay. This also from the on way. Do not hold tightly to the lies that keep you impoverished. To change our positions of wealth, we must change ourselves. We must become wise. We must first be humble. The attainment of wisdom is the achievement of wealth. You know what I'm talking about? And that's true. Especially when it comes to history. You gotta take away all the lies. Stop referring to yourself as a descendant of slaves because your people were not called slaves. First off. Second off, know what the etymological word for a slave is at least. Another thing, learn where they got it from. And it sure wasn't from you. Oh, we ain't gonna talk about that. See, that's the thing. They'll make sure that you're descendant of slave. Oh, we ain't gonna talk about them dang on the white slaves. Oh no, yeah, that's something they keep here. They'll never talk about them Euro slaves. Oh, they gloss over that. Did you know? Thank you, Alien. But yeah, you know, just stop doing it. Just stop. You know what I'm saying? Just stop doing it. It don't work. You know what I'm saying? Because you're misrepresenting yourself, and two, you're misrepresenting the historical situation. You know what I'm saying? you're just misrepresenting the whole historical situation, and you're just perpetuating or solidifying the slave identity to yourself. It's just stupid. It's nobody does that. Well, well, but just don't do it. But yeah, cut away all the lies. That's another reason why we do research, to cut away the lies so we can have the wealth of wisdom and things like that with anything we research. You know what I'm talking about? So yeah, man. Okay. We gonna get into it. This is for those that don't know, this is Dr. Asa Hilliard. I was also put on to him, in part. So yeah, man, we gonna get into it.
Yeah. No, that was calculated.
Okay.
And we go back to the psychodynamics that I talked about earlier: suppression of memory, suppression of identity.
Suppression of memory. Use the computer thing you used. I heard you use some time ago in history. Computer and programming and memory and that analogy.
I can't remember exactly what I said.
You don't remember how brilliant you were.
Thank you. No, I just, that in effect, that you can use the computer as an analogy, that if you can somehow empty the contents of the African mind, and of course, you can't really do that once people have things in their mind. So what you do is, for those who have the appropriate program, which means their own natural memories in their mind, they are either isolated, killed off, you wait till they die out, whatever. And then the children receive a new program so that they don't know the old memories. And as a result of the new program, they behave inappropriately. And that's basically what happens to many of our children, because as a group we have taken very little of the initiative in determining the nature of the program. We make sure that our children have access to the programs that are provided, but we don't question the character of the program enough. And as a result, we lose a chance to rescue ourselves.
Even with education, do you see the kind of concern about what black children are being taught? Black parents that I know, most of them have this one thing in mind: I want my child to get a good education, without examining what good is.
That's right. And we make very poor judgments about what a good education is. See, for me, a good education would be like the one that Ron McNair got, the astronaut who blew up on the launch pad. He got a technical education. That is, he was a laser physicist. One of the most brilliant laser physicists in the world. That's what he was doing up there in the capsule, was a physics experiment. That's why he was going up there. But he never forgot who he was. For example, one of his hobbies was jazz music, our music. He liked it, and he played in a jazz band. Also a karate expert, 4th degree black belt in karate. Also in community service. In other words, he felt the sense of responsibility and obligation to his people. So to me, that represents a person with a good education. Now, you could have another person who could become a laser physicist who didn't have the sense of social responsibility to his community, who rejected his cultural forms and decided that to be a physicist meant that he had to adopt Western European culture and values. And I think that would be a miseducated black person. And we have a lot of that.
Now, what about the person who took his learning, his knowledge of physics, and used it for, quote, black people?
I think that's showing a sense of social responsibility.
Go ahead.
Every group of people would do that for itself.
Yeah.
Every group of sane people would do that for itself. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Well, let's just take a look.
All right. So that's Dr. Hastings, you know what I'm talking about? He sort of tells you already what you got to do. You have to, like in Star Wars, you have to unlearn what you have learned. You know what I'm saying? But you always got to, if we're doing it from a computer download mindset, and deprogramming and reprogramming, you know what I'm saying? You always got to update your systems with information, you know what I'm saying? New and true information, because anybody can tell you anything. Anybody can tell you anything, you know what I'm saying? If you do not research, trust, and verify it for yourself. A lot of people, on social media platforms talk about, history and things like that. But one thing they don't do, at least it seems like, man, this is sometimes at least what I learned from the elder scholars, you know what I'm talking about. And never tell you where they get it from. Never tell you where they get it from. I don't have no problem saying, yeah, I got that from Dr. John. I got that from Dr. Big. I did not get all this by myself. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you always sometimes got to cite your sources, It's like, like when Chief said, in an archive show, you're constantly going to the source to get new information or new orders. You know what I'm saying? But you have to go back to the source. You know what I'm saying? Paraphrasing a bit, but yeah, man, you're always going to have to update your historical information and programming, because time waits for no man, for one. And something's always dang on happening. Always dang on happening. And especially from a cultural aspect and things like that, you know, and you also want to impart truth um, to the youth. You don't want to tell them no, you don't want to be capping. We just gonna say that. You don't want to be lying. You don't want to be capping. You know. So you want to give them the actual facts, because they too are on a journey for identity. You know what I'm saying? You can give them familiar identity and the paternal or parental identity, but from a cultural perspective and a national perspective, that you have to also impart on them as well, because they have to know what they have to do as well, or where they have to go, and what they got to do, where they should go, along their path. You have to, usher them along in that sense. You know what I'm talking about? So, that's something to, always remember. You know what I'm saying? you know, you have to replace what was given to you, you know what I'm saying, and throw it out the window, as well as apply it. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. Okay. So, in short, the black historian, if he is to serve his generation, must not hesitate to declare what he thinks the results of these studies mean. For even when our history shows us where we have been weak, it is also showing us how, through our own efforts, we can become strong again. Now, this comes from basically the section pretty much of where he's talking about subjectivity and objectivity. How it's nice to be objective about purely when it comes to facts, and just present the truth. It's easy if your historical identity is not constantly under fire. I just said it. Constantly under fire, constantly in war, constantly trying to be taken away from you. If you're at the top, you don't got to worry about that. Oh yeah, you can be truthful or objective all you want. But if you're basically a black historian, it's like, Chancellor Williams say, it's okay to be subjective, because your historical situation is not the same as theirs. So you have to present facts in uh, a certain context, because you have to show what you got right and what you got wrong, and where you can improve. And the applicant, and I was also add the application of how to improve. You know what I'm saying? You just can't say, okay, this is what we did wrong. This is what we could. You have to show the application of how to improve. You know, like Chief would say, tell a kid, ask how more than why. You know, where the how you actually have to show action. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, you can say, yeah, slavery happened. Yeah. But what happened after slavery? what were some things that we actually got right that we could be doing again? Because we can all go back to running that business. We can all go back to running our business. We can all go back to running our business. The whiz. Anyway, yeah, da. I love that opening scene with with the numbers and whatnot. For those that know, But yeah, man, that's what it is. And don't think that nobody else is subjective in their historical or any kind of any kind of anything. Don't think they're purely objective. No, no one is. No one is. Like I say, if you can look, if you can't take a movie and TV, anything, just as it is, that already goes to show you that there's no true objectivity, man. You know what I'm saying? That's something you know you can take with a grain of salt. You have to, like I said, research. Got to research. You know what I'm saying? They say you are something. Find out for yourself if it's true. Just don't take it verbatim. You know what I'm saying? Anybody can propagandize you. You know what I'm saying? When they know you won't do the work or to truth seek. You know what I'm talking about? Like that old saying, you want to hide something from a black person, you put it in a book. you know. Now it's like they can read, so put it in a book, but change up the words, Sometimes, you have to know how to read between the lines, and then sometimes you have to go on what was said, and then sometimes you have to go on what was not said. Then you got to go on who was this actually for? Who was this written for? You got like I say, it goes down deep rabbit hole. Like she would tell us in Wednesday study sessions. You gotta especially when it comes to the Bible and Torah. You gotta what's being said, who's talking, who's speaking to whom, and what's going on at that time. You know what I'm saying? That should be right. I have to make sure. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, it's that same principle with history and researching. You know what I'm saying? Because everybody ain't the same. You know what I'm saying? And everybody's condition is not the same. You know what I'm saying? So you have to ask, okay, who was this actually for? You know what I'm saying? Was this movie really for me, or was this book really for me? You know what I'm talking about? Who were they really talking to? So yeah, man. But don't be afraid to declare what you think. You know what I'm saying? Don't be afraid to speak out. One thing about these guys, man, I mean, they weren't afraid to speak out. They weren't afraid to speak loud and speak out. Dr. John himself, I mean, he did. They didn't care. They really did not care. They didn't care about your feelings. They just present the information and you take it how it is, man. You know what I'm talking about? So yeah, maybe it's elder age, you just stop caring and be like, don't ask it. Look, it's just there, and that's how I'm gonna give it. If you don't like it, don't listen. They just didn't care. But they were not afraid to speak up and speak out, which is the beauty of it all, man. You know what I'm talking about? So yeah. So give thanks, Emily Yakira. So yeah. Okay. The first tragedy to note about the effects of this class education on blacks is that it further reinforced colonialism's policy of perpetual disunity in Africa and elsewhere. Okay, this is long, so and it's emboldened on the actual slide. The second great tragedy is in the nature of what is called education. It is mainly rote learning. The ability to memorize phrases, concepts, and other required data. Thinking is neither required, not I could say not or nor expected. Critical analysis and evaluation of subject matter are not required, but ability to absorb and recall is required. The brilliant scholar then is one who can readily quote authorities and remember well his bibliographical sources. So we have a generation of Black scholars who continue to amaze students by mouthing out the doctrines and viewpoints of their white teachers like so many robots without minds of their own. These two tragedies are basically what he's talking about, tragedies in education. You know what I'm saying? That's why I read them back and forth, because, critical analysis is not taught in, at least in the public, well, the schools here. Even I could tell you, even in from elementary on up, let me tell you, we did all them dang questions in the book, but when it came to critical thinking, that was skipped. That was skipped. Well, critical thinking is important. Critical thinking is a survival skill that you need. But that's the tragedy in education, especially when you're not educating yourself, or you're not educating your children, or you're not educating your nation. It's why this is why homeschool are important. Where you can enforce or foresee the critical thinking in your own homestead and whatnot, because to press that responsibility on somebody else, especially somebody else that don't look like you don't know, you don't live by them, it's just foolish. Which I just said like that, foolish. Yes, I'll be out around. That's true, bro. So yeah, okay. So in our new way in education says pursue education and perception with great vigor. It is a lifelong pursuit that should never be abandoned, regardless of your age. So, man, keep on learning. Man, Nearly Fuller used to always say, man, when you listen to him, and the announcer be like, how you doing? He said, I'm still learning. he always say, I'm still learning. So that's, man, he already let you know what you got to do, man. And he an elder, man. So you always got to keep on learning, man. You can't be stuck in the past. You know what I'm saying? You can't be stuck. You always got to keep on learning. You always got to keep your mind sharp. You always got to keep your mouthpiece sharp too. You know what I'm talking about? But you always got to, keep yourself in the know. Like she was saying in the archive show, that's why, you always got, young people around you, and sweeping out the shrines and whatnot. They keep you in the know of what's going on, even when, okay, I don't, as you get older, you quit caring about things like fashion and latest fashions and things like that, latest music, So, you keep young people around you. I always got my niece around me, and she keeps me in the know on certain things when it comes to music, like like in New York, she was telling me about how this rapper brother died. You know what I'm saying? She probably know them Sugar Hill boys. I didn't care. I don't do the drill. Even if I'm from here, I don't. I stopped doing drill. But she told me that, and I was like, oh, okay. But then you pick up. I'm like, oh, that's what. man, but they keep you in the know what's going on. You know what I'm talking about? Sometimes, sometimes that's your report on current events or current cultural events. Here I am like, girl, you ain't even from New York. Why are you listening to that was my mind was. Like, you ain't even from there. Why are you listening to them? But yeah, but you can take it so many ways, man. Don't, learn, it's never too late to, pursue a trade, pursue any type of technical skill. You know what I'm saying? Anything you want to learn and anything you always wanted to do, you can still do no matter what. Man, I knew people my grandmama's age going to college, went like straight up going to college in the same classroom as me. You know what I'm talking about? My grandmother's age, but probably younger than my grandmother. But they could be my grandmother's age. And they were going to college. Never went. And now they decided to go. Or they decided to do something with with their life. You know what I'm saying? You can keep on constantly learning, man. You can keep on, that's one thing about being a scholar. You're always in the pursuit of knowledge. Now, mind you, I did not get that name, Lotus Scholar. I wasn't self-proclaimed that. Some, that look, everybody got a story. That's the story right there. Somebody called me that. Actually it was a pastor. I didn't go to a church. My mom went to that church, right? But every time I come from, come from the South and go back home, she'll want me, come to her church or, and whatnot to come see or whatever. And then her pastor be like, oh, here's the scholar. He never called me by my name. He just called, oh, that's how I got the name. And then I just put, Lotus Scholar because that's what they call me down home. So thus I just put two names together that I was given and bam, that's literally how I got it. But I didn't call myself that. They just saw something in me and was like, oh yeah, that's you. Because I was always doing it and I knew things. I just never told nobody I did. But yeah, you have to be special. But that pursuit is always present, man. It's always present. Like sometimes, man, I'll be honest, man. She be baffling me with all things he know. I was like, man, I'm trying to catch up, but man, you know so much. But somebody don't like history. You know a lot. And sometimes I'll be riding along with you, but then I'll be like, I did not know that. Where can I learn that? But yeah, man. But for sure, like I told you, man, everybody got a story, man. And sometimes that's what builds relationships, is learning people's stories, man. Being in the community, you have to learn other people's story, other people's history. You know what I'm talking about? Like when Emma shared that story about her friend. Look, bet she was a cute Puerto Rican friend too. But what she say? Oh yeah, I mean hey, something like that. What when she be like, when she was talking about how you wanted to be a spade, I was like, I still like, man, why spade? Like, explain that, because I knew who they were, even though there was none here. But knowing about hip hop and then knowing about New York and things like that a little bit. But like, why not one of the other ones? But them, what was so special about I just wanted to know, when he said that and things like that, and be like, man, you went to such it came back alive. Like, man, you got to do that. Man, that's, I mean, just so much. And then, you talk about, Mount Vernon and be like, oh man, I did not know, like Malcolm X lived there, or, Nina Simone lived there, and things like that. You'd be like, wow, you never know. Like a lot of history, man, a lot of history, when you fellowship and relate to people because, like she say, it's all about relationships, So yeah, man, you know what I'm talking about. So okay, let's move on. Okay, I got yet study under white teachers and professors um, should be most rewarding, and it can be um, if you do not enter white institutions with a head like an empty pitcher going to a foundation to be filled. I was safe and richly rewarded doing my studies in white universities only because I happened not to be so naive that I expected the viewpoints of the conquerors to be the same as those of the conquered on matters relating to our place in the world. Now that's message, but that's also an application. You know, no matter where no matter where you go, if you go to an institution or a Euro institution, nothing wrong with it. The problem is that people, like you said, go with such naivete, don't know nothing, don't. Well, I can't give the country saying to it, but don't know nothing about nothing. I just say like that. They don't know nothing about nothing, and then because they don't, they'll just fill with anything, any misinformation, because they're just like a sponge because they don't know nothing. So at the start, of this, you can tell that Chancellor wasn't all. We already know something, so we ain't, he already knew something. You know what I'm saying? And he wasn't naive to be so influenced by their viewpoints. You know what I'm talking about, and things like that. You know, where they could just say anything and then he'll just go along with it, or you'll go along with it, or I'll go along with it. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, man, that's something to know. Or that's an actionary step. Or something to remember, or a cautionary thing to remember, man. As a new, we are not against Western education. We are pro education in all forms. Training and education are not the same. To be trained to be anything other than a righteous being is damaging, but education brings out the genius in a soul. So that goes with what was just said. Some people just train. Man, let me tell you, one thing that turned me off because I hung around my Bible and more than one teacher, especially this one teacher, my sociology teacher, and we was always cool because he'd be like, "Where you from?" And I say, "I'm from Chicago." He was like, "Oh, you from Chicago, right? Do you know where your people actually from?" Yeah, I say, "Yes, sir. I do know where my people are actually from. They are from Mississippi." Oh, yes, because he was from Mississippi. He was this dude, that graduate got his PhD and graduated from Harvard and things like that. He was like, "Oh yeah, I'm from there." I'm like, "Yes, sir, I know." And then he tell me, "Oh, I went to this school." I'm like, "Oh, Tougaloo? Yeah, I know where that school is. Yeah, I had an auntie go graduate from there too. I know private school, and that's how we, build a relationship. But they would also let me know the politics in academia. You know what I'm saying? Especially when it came to that so-called word of training, you know. It's man, they will, at least in my experience, they will look frown upon you if you weren't what they felt was properly trained. Everybody went to some school of how to learn, but if you were not so-called properly trained, they thumb their nose at it or whatever. It was very telling and interesting. You know, what I'm talking about. So that's something you gotta look out for in the sense, with any institution you go to, you're not looking to be trained. You know what I'm saying? You're looking to be educated. Because a lot of people say they're educated and they just been trained. Like you a dang on animal. Shoot, even that uh William Lynch letter, makings of a slave or whatever, that's training. The training of a slave, man. I mean, bruh, like it's it goes on. You know what I'm saying? You combinate it. You know what I'm talking about? So yeah, even when it comes to okay, historical context, Brown versus Board of Education, when they did the whole doll test, that's training. Training to love the white doll, not the black doll. Bam. You know what I'm saying? You're trained to love. Okay, you train. I'm just gonna say you train to love straight, wavy hair and not your own. I mean, just saying. But don't listen to me. When you listen to me before, I'm just a servant. He's the prince. I'm willing to go on my corner. But sometimes things compel you to say certain things, especially when you have so much knowledge. You can't just keep it all to yourself. It's another thing. you know. Okay. The origins and steps in study, which is also in the book. Review of world history. This is what it gives. But those sections are so long, I just did it by number. Began the formal study of Africa in Europe, because that's something you have to know. Reviewing documentary sources, and then field study for good study, man. For good research. He's giving you the applicable steps of such things. View world history. Study. Africa, the Africans in Europe, or whatever, melanin rich people in Europe, what they think about them, and the actions they took on them, things like that. Exactly. So yeah, man. And then review documentary sources, because a lot of these things are documented, and recorded, and things like that. You can look them up. I know you can't get everything off the internet. Sometimes you're gonna have to go to a bunch of sources to get the documents, because they all housed somewhere. Even he was saying that was one reason why he went to Chancellor Williams, talking about why he went to Oxford, because of those documentary sources that they had. And also he wanted to see why Oxford was at the time such a great college, such a it wasn't it. Now you gotta understand, Oxford's not the eldest college, maybe for Britain, but why was such a prestigious college? Why was such a great school? And then field study, actually putting your boots on the ground and actually studying like you're a dang on archaeologist. That's what field study is. Okay. Now, okay. Insofar as the study of African history is concerned, I regard direct investigation in the field in Africa as of the highest importance. This field work should be undertaken only after thoroughgoing research in written and other documentary sources. The study of available written sources, their evaluation, and the mountain archaeological records are all the first major phase of African research, and I would say a prerequisite for field work. So being a detective, in the sense, you gotta do a lot. You gotta look at documents. And mind you, some things are not in English. Some things are in other languages too. You know what I'm saying? Some things are researched in other languages. Like for me, my Baba used to try to teach me Greek, because some things were in Greek, but he also used to point, especially when it came to Egypt or Kemet, he always used to point, you gonna have to learn French, because those were, France was the first to really have archaeological finds. Champollion, basically said to be the father basically Egyptology. So you're gonna have to learn French. Thus, I took French, even though I dealt with Spanish for years. Still don't know none. But he was like, you're gonna have to learn French. And then you're probably, even if you go to some of these institutions, you're gonna have to learn French, you're gonna have to learn more than one language. You're probably gonna have to learn French, you're gonna have to learn Latin and things like that, just to do research on these documents. But that just goes to show you who did what. You know what I'm saying? Somebody say champagne. I did not say champagne, I said champagnon. Or champ. If you look at it, how it's spelled, it's champ. It would say like champalion, but that's how he taught me how to say it. But he said, I trust you all know what we're getting this evening. This is Cornerstone Teaching. Thank you, me. I'm just trying, like, I'm trying to be like, I want to give them bars. I'm trying to be like yo, my Charlie Clips. I want to give them bars, but it's hard to, measure up to the greats. The Mount Rushmore, scholars and stuff. I'm just trying to get there. But yeah, you know what I'm saying? You're gonna have to learn more than one language, especially with things that you're interested in. You know what I'm talking about? With anything, you know what I'm saying, and research, even if it's science, biology, metallurgy, chemistry, shoot, you gonna have to learn the language of math. That's language in itself. You know what I'm talking about? Physics. I mean, I know we shy away from these things that we were so good at, but when architecture, you're gonna have to, Daddy used to always say, math is the universal language, so you're gonna have to learn it. So yeah, man, that's something you gotta do, man. But yes, when you can't research and look at documents no more, that's when you get your boots on the ground. That's when you start your travel work. You know what I'm saying? Through this up on. Yeah, I sort of know what you said, but moving there, Trebell, Mama, Girls, and Boys. See, I guess I can pronounce a little bit. Zoot, Champagne, yeah, Champagne. See, they know it. Look, I took it, and what made it so interesting, I took it from my teacher's from Mongolia, and that's how she got to America. She got a French scholarship because she knew French, but she's from Mongolia. At the time I thought she was from China, but she told us she was from Mongolia. You from what? Genghis Khan, where them boys is from, But yeah, so yeah, some people majored in it. You know what I'm talking about? I was good in it. My one homie I knew used to listen to French rap and everything and knew what they were saying. Me personally, that wasn't my deal. I stayed with the Romance languages, which French is, but I be on the Portuguese side of the game, but the Spanish side of the game, under the cherry moon. Yeah, gee. Okay. All right, let's get it. Let's see. Make sure I got the right one. Should be this one. Nope, it ain't that one. I think I didn't. 1 second, let me add it. I have so many dang on videos.
We have only skimmed the surface of the history of African civilization.
Look, everybody, it's Asa Davis.
And there are wide gaps in our knowledge. Among the riddles of ancient Africa are, where did the Negro come from? What happened to the Cushites after their defeat? Where did the sculptors of Benin learn their remarkable skills?
But it's a young Asa,
We
you
haven't
know what I'm
even
talking about? I
begun
just
to
had to say
penetrate
that. It's
some
a
of
young
these
Asa.
mysteries. Yet, growing knowledge and interest in Africa is rediscovering a world we never knew. And many Negroes are examining for the first time the values that were lost.
My name is Eula Mazik, and I'm addressing my question to Mr. Clark. I want to know what happened to the so-called Negro culture in America.
The most tragic destruction of African culture was the destruction of the African culture brought to these shores, brought to America's shores. Now, the first thing they did was to forbid the drum, forbid all African ceremonies, forbid African ornaments, literally to destroy a people in such a manner that they had to be remade in an American image. This was not exactly true in the West Indies. It was slavery, make no mistake about it. But because it was on an island, many of the Africans could communicate with each other and maintain some of the African culture, while in the United States it was impossible, because as they arrived, mother, brother, sister were split up and they went in opposite directions. Then they were resold. They might have been resold within a matter of days after they were sold the last time. So it was difficult for relatives to keep track of each other. And it was difficult for a continuity to be maintained in African culture. This was the beginning of the fragmenting of our family in this country. It was also the beginning of the demeaning and the negation of the masculinity of the black male in America. This demeaning of our culture and this reading us out of the commentary of human history has left deep psychological scars. What we are trying to do now is a massive job of rebuilding the inside, the spirits, the hopes, the history, the culture of a people. We're trying to restore those values that have been taken away. And we're trying to get across to black youth that they have a part to play in the making of a new world. They have the imagination, they have the energy. You must first restore that part of yourself that has been negated by oppression. It is as essential to you as bread and water. It is part of the food that must feed your spirit in the world of tomorrow. And it is part of what you will have to transfer to your children.
All right. Well, as you can see, that's another one. That's a young Dr. John. You know what I'm saying? And the young, like I said, and the young Asa. For me, Asa always for me personally, Asa resembles dang on Harold Washington so much. It's like y'all could be brothers. I swear, like for me, I sometimes I get them two mixed up. But yeah, man. You know. Okay. We just gonna keep it going. thing I learned, at least for the World War, that the Eunice marching band was very significant in how they played, especially when it came to black regiments. I think a movie that sort of touched on it was a movie Amsterdam, which goes into the Harlem Fighters or the Rattlers, you know what I'm talking about, which was a New York National Guard unit, and it sort of shows off their not necessarily a little bit, but shows off their regimental band and how they was playing, because that was a big thing, that type of shit. But yeah, I would watch games in New York. I thought, the intro was always so cool, and thinking, oh, it's because got the Irish, you think it's an Irish band playing, and then little old me, lo and behold, I go research that dang old song, and come to find out, man, that's not people's. It's them from Mississippi and from the north. they way up north. And I was like, you think, oh, that's Irish, but no, for those who know, that's Otha Turner and the Fife and drum band, right? And I'll just go on with it. And I researched that song. It's actually called The Drums. One thing, look, especially during that time, you see, that those drums are secondhand, and they playing on sticks and cloth, and a cloth for the big drum, So, and look, they get, and man, if you research Otha Turner and them, man, you go see a bunch of videos. Them just playing, and I'm playing in the woods. For those that know about the woods, they are playing in the woods, man, and they are getting it. Oh man, they are getting it, and it's just, but that just goes to show you, if you don't protect certain parts of your history or cultural history, people will try to co-op it. You know what I'm talking about? It happens. It's not just with this. It's also with certain heroes of yours, co-opted by certain movements that ain't really about y'all. That some of y'all sold on. One case in point, because because of this strong, Martin Luther King co-opted, compromise. Nobody talks about, the rebel, what I'm talking about. Nobody talks about that part. No, they want to give you the I have a dream and that's it. What I'm talking about. So yeah, we just gonna keep it going in the sense,
my baby with
how,
me today,
history,
so we're gonna do a whole lot better than we did yesterday.
Lineage, that's basically why I did it. This is Otha Turner's granddaughter. They up in, like I said, man, they up in that Mississippi. But yeah. Exactly. Anytime, it's a Fife. It's a Fife. It's not a piccolo. It's a Fife. There's a difference. Usually, at least historically, I'm used to a Fife being like with multi.
There have been days.
Well, multiple holes for one, but
why should I worry? This all in vain.
different chords, like the Greek version of the Fife, something like that. But yeah, and it reminded me of my own granddaddy. I remember saying in his own way, "Ma, this how we wear our hats down here." Just like how her granddaddy's way. That's how my granddaddy taught me how to wear my hat down. They literally wear and that's how I would have my hat every time. Every time I went down home, I would have my hat, especially if I wore a snapback. But yeah, and I just remember that's just part of that movie, and then you see all of that, and then sometimes, even like with this song, man, "Sitting on Top of the World," it's been done so many times. It's a good song. It's been done by some. Look, I am partial. Some of the baddest Mississippi bluesmen: Howlin' Wolf, B.B. King. I mean, Mississippi Shakes. I mean, we can go on. You know what I'm saying? We can keep on going with it. But yeah, you know. But I mean, but it tells a story. Going through all this, stories. But even though I'm going through all these problems, my good done left me and everything, but I had to work on summer. What you call ragtime jazz? Boy. But thing is, something like that's not taught in the school. You're not gonna I heard it in the movie, and then I looked at it, I'm like, oh, them people are because when I heard it, I was like, oh, it's my stuff. And then like, that's what your tribe likes to play. That's what your tribe. That's what y'all do. That's what y'all really get down to. All we need is some drums and a dang on flute, and we getting it. It is what it is. But yeah, I don't want to play no. So let's get back to it. Okay, now we getting into oral history, or as some like to call oral tradition.
I was selling, because you can get a nice price for that piano.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm going to tell you something.
And this comes from the movie The Pianist. I used to watch this movie as a kid, but he got, Charles S. Dustin, you got Courtney B. Vance and whatnot. You got homie that was in Malcolm X. You got Alfred Wood. Yeah, all of them played in rock. If you ever seen the show, but those two did.
I'm talking to the man. Now let me talk to the man. See now, to understand why we say that, to understand about that piano, well, you got to go back to slavery time. See, our family was owned by a fella named Robert Sutter. Now, that was Sutter's grandfather. All right. The piano was owned by a fella named Joel Nolander. Now, he was one of the Nolander brothers from down in Georgia. Now, Miss Ophelia, that was Sutter's wife's name. She fancied herself a player of the piano, having taken it up when she was a little girl. Now, it was coming up on their wedding anniversary, and Sutter figured he'd get her this piano for a present. The only thing with him, Sutter ain't had no money. But he had some slaves. Told Mr. Nolander he'd give him 1.5 slaves for that piano. Mr. Nolander told him, say, okay, but he wanted to have the pick of the litter. He didn't want Sutter to give him just any old body. So Sutter lined up his slaves, and out the whole bunch, Mr. Nolander picked my grandmother Bernice. Now, that's who Bernice is named after. And he picked my daddy when he wasn't nothing but a little boy, 9 years old. So Sutter traded Mama Bernice and my daddy for that piano. And Mr. Nolander carried them down to his place in Georgia. Papa Willie boy stayed on there at Sutter's. And he never did see his family again. Miss Ophelia was as happy as she could be playing on that piano. She would get up in the morning, get all dressed up, sit down and play on that piano. All right. Time go long. Time go long. Miss Ophelia got to missing my grandmother. The way she would cook and clean the house and talk with her and whatnot. And she missed having my daddy around the house to fetch things for her. So she asked to see if maybe she'd trade the piano back and get her slaves back. Well, Mr. Nolander said no. A deal was a deal. Well, him and Sutter had a big falling out about it, and Miss Ophelia took sick to the bed. That's when Sutter called my granddaddy up to the house. Now, our granddaddy's name was Boy Willie. Now, that's who Boy Willie's named after. He was a worker of wood. He could make you anything you wanted out of wood.
Yeah.
So Sutter called my grandfather up to the house and told him to carve a picture of my grandmama and my daddy's picture on the piano for Miss Ophelia. And he took and carved this. See that right there? That's my grandmother Bernice. And here he put a picture of my daddy. Now, he made them up out of his memory. The only thing, he didn't stop there. He carved all this. He got a picture of his mama, Mama Esther, and his daddy, Boy Charles.
Now, that was the first Boy Charles.
Then he put here on the side all kinds of things. See that?
Mm-hmm.
That's when him and Mama Bernice got married. They called it jumping the broom. And here he got when my daddy was born. And he got here Mama Esther's funeral. And here he got Mr. Nolander taking Mama Bernice and my daddy away to his place down in Georgia. Now, he got all kinds of things of what happened with our family. When Sutter seen a piano with all them carvings on it, he got mad. He didn't ask for all that. When Miss Ophelia seen it, she got excited. Now she had her piano and her slaves, too. She took back to playing on it and played on it right up to the day she died. All right. Now, our brother, Boy Charles, that's Boy Willie and Bernice's daddy. Now, I'll tell you what kind of man he was. He was the oldest of us three boys. He's dead now, but he would have been 57 if he lived. He died in 1911 when he was 31 years old. Boy Charles used to talk about that piano all the time. He never could get it off his mind. Even years later, he was still talking about it. He'd be talking about taking it out of Sutter's house. Say it was the story of our whole family, and as long as the Sutters had it, they had us. Say we were still in slavery. Well, me and Whining Boy would try to talk him out of it, but it wouldn't do any good. So on the 4th of July in 1911, when the Sutter family was at the picnic that the county give every year, we went on in there with him and took that piano out of Sutter's house. Me and Whining Boy carried it over into the next county to Boy Willie's mama, Mama Ola, and her people. Now, I don't know what happened when Sutter came home and found the piano gone. But somebody went up to Boy Charles' house and set it afire. But he wasn't in there. He must have seen it coming, 'cause He went down and caught the 357 Yellow Dog. Now, he ain't know they was gonna come down and stop the train. They stopped the train, found Boy Charles in the boxcar with 4 of them hobos. They must have got mad when they couldn't find the piano because they set the boxcar afire. They killed everybody. Now, nobody know who done that. Some people say it was Sutter because it was his piano. Some people say it was Sheriff Carter, but don't nobody know for sure. It's about 2 months after that, Ed Saunders fell down as well. Just up and fell down as well for no reason. People say it was the ghost of those men who burnt up in the boxcar that pushed him in his well.
Okay. So that's many parts of oral history and oral telling. You know, as you can see from that example or that film example, you see, you know, the telling of a traumatic event, the the oral tradition of retelling blood lineage, the retelling of history like lore. That's one thing about it. We can show no make an event into a story. We just say it like that. But you also have the retelling of history through uh, art and pictures. You know, the natives had another. At least some natives had the same type of retelling, but I forget what it was called. You know, especially when, I want to say like the winter count or something. I forget, but um, you had so many oral trajectories and oral tradition in that in that one scene. You had the history of names and how one name was passed on, you know, from that same lineage and things like that. You know, some of us got, you know, name history. We've even went through that in our new before, you know, all that, you know, names. Before we did the naming ceremony, we had to research, you know, talk about our own names and things like that. Sort of went through my own, you know, how I got it. I think I did. Man, you know, so yeah. But like I said, you see it so much in that one scene. It's just not just one thing, it's just telling somebody a, a story. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Field work was mainly concerned with oral history. I had noted in my study of sources of noted historians that many who decried oral tradition as unreliable never failed to use it themselves to supplement or give added validity to their work. The fact is that neither written nor unwritten records should be accepted as true without verification. Um, so that just goes to show you, man, verify everything, you know, but don't discount oral history or oral um, tellings. You know, I actually had to do that when I was down home. You know what I'm talking about? I had to interview black veterans of World War II. And that was interesting, man, what they would tell you. You know, and I actually had to record it and ask all these questions. You know what I'm talking about? So, yeah, man, it's very interesting. You know, that's why you build relationships so they can tell you, you know, so you can learn something that you never heard before. You know what I'm saying? Things like that. So I thought I love them telling them stories too. You know, things like that. So yeah, I love stories too. You know. Okay. Um, a major research project should not be undertaken by a single individual. That was my mistake. Hence the 16 years of work that a research team of 8 or 10 persons might have completed in 3 or 4. So he's also telling you a mistake when it came to researching. Don't do it by yourself. Don't take on this task by yourself and get people to help you. Because if you go into the story of the 16 work, which he's talking about destruction of black civilization, oh man, that was a lot. That was a lot that Chancellor Williams took on by himself. Didn't mean he didn't have help, because he did. He had help. He did have help. That's therefore you will. He goes and say why he would say we, not in a world sense or anything, but to count those that helped him create or research this body of work. But he's saying, in the sense that it was based on relationships. I'll put it to you like that. It was based on relationships, not a colleague type of research team. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Africans and persons of African descent must assume the primary responsibility and leadership in historic research if we are to continue to leave, particularly all important historical research and writing concerning the black race, to the white man. Then we must be prepared to accept uncomplainingly the white man's point of view. This quote is also in Destruction of Black Civilization, but because they had a picture of him, I figured I'd use it anyway. You know what I'm saying? So he's already telling you what is your responsibility as a person, a warrior scholar, or in his historical research. I would even say it any type of, especially when it comes to like things like sociology, especially black social, melanin rich sociology or psychology, nursing, health, anything. That's your responsibility. It's just not with history. It's with any science you into. That's your primary responsibility. You know what I'm saying? And you can leave that up to somebody that don't look like you, because all they gonna tell you is their point of view and what they think of it. And that's what's been done for a very long time. Now you find some that will actually tell the truth. You know what I'm saying? And then you have some that won't. And then you have some that just shies away from it and then just talk in code and try to minimize everything. You know what I'm talking about? Let's see. Western scholars know about the authentic and early modern sources. They simply ignore and refuse to publish any facts of African history that upset or even tend to upset their racial philosophy that rests so solidly on premises sanctified by time that they no need to be openly proclaimed. That is a very long segment. I just took a little bit of it, but you have to read that whole segment, man, to understand what he's talking about. But yeah, like right now, me personally, I'm reading a book on an Ottoman, well, one Ottoman king selling, and I'm in a part where they're talking about Columbus and Spain, and the Reconquista and the conquista of the Americas, and they're going into African slavery. And one thing I realized, what wasn't said and what was said, was that at one point the author is talking about you know a tribal people that they actually got got as slaves, and then which is the Wolof. And then when they were warlike, and the Wolof was warlike, and they had their hands in insurrections, the Spanish territories in America, they was like, oh no, we gotta get rid of them. we can't do that. And so apparently, which it's amazing how you don't see this on maps. It was said that they started taking slaves from the Mediterranean region of North Africa, and they didn't say who. And so then you like, okay, where did they take those people from, and who were they? Because they weren't no Arabs. So you gotta ask yourself, who was up there? It's like, oh, wink, wink. You just little things like that. You know what I'm saying? Some things that they don't admit to, and then you like, no, who were there. They had a name. I mean, we already know the countries up there: Libya, Tunisia, Morocco, things like that. So if you know that, where they came from, and who were there in those countries. You already know, man. You know what I'm talking about. So yeah, you like I say, you got to sip and read between lines. You know what I'm talking about. So yeah, man. Unless from history we learn what our strengths were, and especially in what particular aspect we are weak and vulnerable, our history can then become at once the foundation and guiding light for united efforts in a serious planning what we should be about now. So everything propels you for actionary steps on what we should be about at the present, or what we should be doing at present. We should be getting, we should be on an entrepreneurial aspects. We should be, learning how to do this, learning trade skills, learning things for the future. Everything's going technical. You may need to know some survival skills. Your people's know survival skills. You have no survival skills if you live in them dang on woods. So you're gonna have to learn how to hunt. You know what I'm talking about? So yeah, it's a lot of things. So yeah, man. Getting in tune with nature and whatnot. Learn how to survive. Around trees and knowing what to eat and what not to eat. You know what I'm saying? And things like that. Everything propels you to apply to the present and the future. So that's something to know. You know what I'm talking about? So yeah, we're gonna get into this last aspect.
Dr. Williams, it's an honor being able to meet with you and to talk with you. You have written what many of us consider to be the definitive work about the culture of Africans throughout the world, and you approach it from the standpoint of the destruction of that civilization. Why did you choose the aspect of destruction rather than some other point of view?
The aspect of destruction was emphasized for the reason that it was quite clear that the black people in America seemed to be generally unaware that they had a history, that they were told that they had achieved nothing. They were told.
This man says the true facts are to be found in a more thorough and honest look at history. After Dr. Chancellor Williams, a native of Bennettsville, South Carolina, received his doctorate in history and sociology, he studied psychology, anthropology, archaeology, and economics. He also taught Arabic history and worked as a professor of history at Howard University for 29 years. He won an award from the Black Academy of Arts and Letters and was the first recipient of the 21st Century Foundation's Clarence L. Holt Prize for Excellence in Literature.
Now, of course, the record was there to show that much of Western civilization was built upon the foundation of the land where civilization itself had begun, and this was in Africa. Therefore, the focus had to be on The recent revelations with the turn of the century, at the turn of the century, that Africa was the cradle of civilization. To what extent could this be actually verified? And so my work was directed in the uncovering much of what had been lost, much of what had been disguised, much of what had been stolen, refurbished, reworked, and presented to Western civilization as the work brought from Africa, but presented to Western civilization as the creation of Western man.
Dr. Chancellor Williams spent 16 years writing his book, and although a piece of extraordinary research, he considered it a greater miracle that he was able to get it published. Plagued by a chronic lack of funds and turned down by his academic associates and all other sources, Dr. Williams mortgaged his home. Then another obstacle arose. Due to his rapidly failing eyesight, he was forced to abandon his earlier plans for an expanded 3-volume work and had to settle for a condensed version of his research into a single volume, the book we now know as The Destruction of Black Civilization, Great Issues of a Race from 4500 BC to 2000 AD.
What did you find out about ancient African civilizations?
Well, to begin with, I found out that ancient African civilization was, first of all, the beginning of civilization. I found out that there could be no record found anywhere that antedates the advanced civilization of Africa. And this was the finding of European and other scholars. And they were now gradually admitting it, and when the evidence became overwhelming, the question arose, could Africans have achieved all this? Could Africans have achieved this remarkable work in architecture that could be traced back for thousands of years before Christ, before Western civilization had even started? Could Africans have done this? Could Africans have achieved this high advance in mathematics, in physics, in chemistry, in medicine, and so forth? I mean, many of the things we now glorify as modern. Take the Washington Monument, for example, which is an exact duplication of ancient African architecture, which is well known. And most of the columns we see on these stately columns on buildings, which the Greeks, in studying in Africa, are borrowed from the Africans, remodeled them at Doria, at Corinth, and so forth, gave these columns the name of the cities in which they remodeled them, and gave them a Greek character. They really didn't do much changing. They merely removed the African acanthus leaf at the column and modified, but otherwise it was substantially the same as African.
Dr. Williams,
All right. Well, you got to put, say the best for last. And Ashford in his own words, you know what I'm talking about? And that you can actually hear, because there's a few video clips on, but because it's back in the day, VHS, and you got that you really ain't gonna hear like you're supposed to. It ain't in high def, the sound quality. But it is what it is, man. But yeah, you gotta give it to him, man. So we have to end it off on that one. I know this one was long, but you can't, do all of this and not do it justice. Like I say, man, you know, so much. But whew, join us next strong. Where we will go into Kemet. You know, we're gonna get a little bit more into destruction of black civilization. We're gonna get into Kemet and it being, you know, a satellite, you know, in a sense, you know. And we gonna get into that. There's gonna probably be a bunch of videos for that because everybody will be talking about it. You know what I'm talking about? We gonna get into some oldest but goodies in that sense. You know what I'm talking about? So yeah, man. We gonna come with it next strong and join us for Shamanu next strong. Oh, and Master Nunley got the honey meat, you know, on deck. We got midday affirmation. You know what I'm talking about. I mean, also check out the blog. Look, there's a lot. Like, share, subscribe, hit the bell icon as you know most used to. You know, gotta do that. Look, you know, I knew like global.org. You know, you can apply, join, read the blog. You know, we keep it moving. You know, chiefuyah.com. You want to get the Chief Uyah podcast. Or if you want to send your questions so he can answer them. You know, his deadline should not be up yet. But if it is, you know, you didn't best, you know, missed out. But yes. So, you know, shouldn't be open, especially when you're working with visuals. Yeah, well, you know, everybody don't know how to well, everybody don't like to read. So you have to give visuals, you know. Like John G. Jackson say, you know, some people got minds like reading, you know, the mind. Wait, man, I have to paraphrase. He got the attention span of a retired mule. And I wanted the attention span of something other than that. I don't want Dr. John to say that about me. So I had to when I heard that, I was like, whoa. He was talking about his own students. I was like, whoa, nope. But yeah, visual sometimes helps. You know, some people are visual, you know, we guys are visual. So visual, you know, visualization helps, you know, get you a mental picture, you know what I'm talking about. So that's what we've been doing next strong, and that's what we always got lined up. So keep on fellowship with no shoot. Look, I'm that dang on side. Keep on fellowship with us. And hey, keep on lookout for it. You know what I'm talking about? We gonna keep it going. We gonna keep on going along for the ride. So give thanks for everybody for showing out and showing up. You know what I'm talking about? And I will see y'all next strong. You know what I'm talking about? But give thanks. Peace.